Hello everyone, Pastor Ian, the Krabby Crafter here, and we are working with the June 2024 Hero Arts card kit. And inside that kit was a stencil, a city outline stencil with little pop-outs, which allows us to kind of put lights on the buildings as it were. And you can see off to the right, I've already done the blue one using some of the blue ink there. Now I'm using some of the pink that came with the kit. I apologize for my head getting in the way. I'm trying to rearrange my camera setup in my craft room and I didn't get it right, and so now I'm still leaning into the camera a little bit there. But working with stencils is not my strength, and so I apologize again for the vibrations because, again, trying to update the camera setup in the room. But I'm not good with stencils, so this one's a little tricky, trying to get it taped down, get everything to stick. I'm using my little scrapbook.com mat there to help hold the paper in place, which helped. But even trying to tape things down, stuff was trying to slide and move, and trying the pounce technique and the swirl technique is just whatever works for you when you're working with a stencil. For me, it's just a big fuss, but I get it done. So what I'm doing now is I've taped the outline back down and put the pop outs back in so that I can go over it now with the I think I'm using the blue ink there, and we're going to put in the lights. And so just going over the stencil there, just kind of pounce it in. You see the one on the right, how it's going to look when it's done. So basically working with stencils, it's just trial and error. Just get a feel for it. And I haven't been doing this very long, but this came out pretty nice. In the end, I cut out the blue, and I'm going to cut these red ones up too. You'll see later, and that was a bad idea. I didn't know what to do with it after I cut it up. I thought I had an idea, but it just didn't look right. But there you go. Nice little city outline there. So next thing we're going to do is take some of the silver cardstock that came with the kit, and it also came with these nice two rub-on transfer sheets. So what I'm doing now is just cutting two of the cardstocks in half to give me A2 card bases, 4¼ by 5½. And so we're actually just going to work with one of the metallic silver pieces. And this is one of the rub-ons. Now, I did not know, when I have a rub-on, normally you have to rub it on. Well, this was super sticky stuff. And as I'm laying it down here, I just tried to take it the easy way. I didn't cut it. I should have cut it. And as I'm rubbing it on, and I'm not rubbing the sides, but it's going to wind up coming off on my glass mat there. And so wasn't really happy about that. In fact, I didn't even have to push very hard. You see, I didn't even rub the top, and it just came off anyways. So I wound up losing most of that sheet. But I love the way it looks. I love that rub-on with all the different pieces over that metallic cardstock. And you see, well, you see what we wasted on the window on the glass mat there. No big deal. We'll just go back and clean that off later off camera. But in the end, though, I do like that rub-on that came with the kit, and I like the way it looks over that metallic cardstock. I just hate that, lesson learned. If you're using rub-ons, go ahead and cut them to fit, and just go ahead and make sure that you don't accidentally let it touch something you don't want it to stick to, just in case. But most of the time, you do have to rub those off. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to the stamp set that came with the card kit. And in this stamp set, it's this really nice two-layered stamp set to provide this nice cloudy background. Now I've got this sped up, and we won't watch all of this. Again, this is something else I'm not the best at. Hero Arts has these layered stamps, and I've got a number of them in my craft room, but I'm not the best at it. I don't know if this is just how it's supposed to be. It seems like when I watch other crafters do it, they make it look so much easier. But you're going to notice that trying to get that outer layer on, I wind up having to put ink on it about 3-4 times, maybe 5 times, and really press down on it to try and get that dark blue outline there. And you can see how it's just not wanting to stick at the top. And I don't know if that was a stamp issue. It could be my platform. It could be any number of things. But you see that once again, I'm still trying to ink it up to try and get this thing where it needs to be. At some point, I even actually had to leave the craft room, and I went and got my little rub-on, I don't know what that thing is called, my pressure tool there, and use that to try and get that blue on. So you can still see at the top where it's not looking right. So when you're working with stamps, when you're working with any kind of a layered stamp like this, you want to use good quality ink. Now this is the ink that came with the Hero Arts kit, and it's nothing wrong with it. It's great ink, great colors. but you really want to make sure you have the right stamp platform, have the right tools. And when you're doing a layered piece like this, you want a stamp platform, because if I tried to stamp this, just inked it and laid the paper on it and pressed it down and pulled it off, and you don't get a good impression, there's no way you're going to eyeball this back and line this back up. And so I think that's probably number 7, 6 or 7. And now we finally got it where I think we like it. At some point, if it's not fully covered, you can go back over it with like a little water brush, and you can try and fill in those places. But there I just saw a couple holes and just tried to figure out where it was and fix that up. So there we go. That's the first layer. So we're going to go ahead and take that off so that we can start working on the second layer. But whenever you're working with something like this, just give yourself the time and the freedom to make the background. Give yourself the time that you need to do this. Don't rush. Don't get frustrated. It is what it is. Again, I don't know all the different ones that I've used like this. I've always had issues with them. I watch other people do it. There's a good chance when they edit the video, they only show 2 layers instead of the 7, like I just did. But and this is sped up too. But it's just when you're making something like this, if it's a stamp set that you like and you want to use it, don't be afraid to use it. It's going to take a little time, great. But when you're finished, you're going to have a card that you really like. Now, I'm actually going to wind up totally messing up this card. I'm going to ink it and try different things, and when it's all said and done, I'm not going to get what I wanted, but I'm going to come out with sort of a happy surprise that works. But I know next time not to second guess myself and not to overthink this. So we're just going back through now with that insert piece and the lighter shade of blue, which gives a little bit of the dimension to those clouds. And so that's what we're gonna do that, and that's gonna help us get that. We're gonna go back and add some other colors as well, but you don't need to see all that. So we're just gonna skip that and fast forward to where we're done with this, so we can show you the rest of the cards that we're working on. All right, so you can see off to the right, I actually went back and used some of that pink on that inside to try and fix that card to give it a little more dimension. I didn't like it. I'm going to go back and we're going to do some more to it. We're not going to like that either. But I'm going back to the red cards that I had originally done, and I'm taping down that little knockout stencil over the top. And what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to blend in some sky here. So I'm going to tape this down, and we're going to go back over this and try and put a little color in the sky. Now I'm using that same well, I switched from the pink and I went to that lighter shade of purple or blue. I don't remember which one. I think I used the Dusty Concord, but I just wanted to give it kind of a sky background, and you can see where it's real easy. Once you take those back down, just don't use the pop out part, or don't use the shadow part. You just lay the insert down. Make sure you line it up, tape it down real good. And you see me holding it there. And that one, it tried to slide a little bit, so I just went over those little gaps with the and brought it down. And it looks okay. But again, I was just not very happy with my initial run using that cityscape, using this cityscape stencil. So we're actually going to wind up doing some very different things with that and going back. And you're going to see another card that I threw in last minute towards the end. We'll show you that one later. What I'm doing now is I'm just trying to figure out, do I want to stack these? Do I want to do a 3-dimensional? Do I want to add some foam? But no matter how I do it, it just didn't look right. The buildings lining up over the other buildings with sky beneath the buildings just didn't work for me. So we're actually going to move away from that. Now, this is me just going back in with some different, with some ink, trying to fill this in. I was trying to blend all these colors out. I was trying to make it look better, and the end result is going in with that pink to try and make like a pinkish cloud and trying to fill it in. It didn't work, and I got a little heavy-handed, so I wound up having to do the whole card, just cover the whole thing with a light shade of that ink cube. And when it's all said and done, it kind of gave it a little bit of a muddy look, but we're going to make it work. You'll see the card once we're done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of this beautiful black cardstock that came with the kit, and I'm going to use some of the dies that come with the kit. The stamp set also comes with some matching dies, the telephone pole, the wires, and you see what I'm doing here is I'm going to cut out the telephone pole. They have some birds, a string of birds. They have some individual birds. Those are 3 individual birds right there. They're in the same die, but they'll actually be 3 separate birds. Those birds are birds on a wire. And so I'm just going to cut some of these out, and you'll see when I'm done off to the right, we cut several more of these off camera. And I actually wound up loving these. I really especially wound up loving the little squirrels. There's another set of the birds, but they won't be on the string. They'll all be separate. And so we're just going to go and run this through our die cutting machine. And there you have the cutouts for those different birds and the pole and everything. It looks great. The die is great. The paper is great. And wound up not actually using some of this. We're only going to use a couple of the birds. You'll see down the road. We won't use much of these, but they'll get used in a project later on. So we got all that cut out. We cut out a bunch more, and then we're getting ready just to move on to the next card. All right, now I really wanted to use some of the glitter cardstock that came with the kit, and so I have these dies in my collection with a kind of a jagged edge die, and I wanted to create like a border frame. I wasn't sure if I was going to use the inside piece or the outer piece, but it's just a really nice jagged edge die, and I used it to cover over that. I'm going to cover. I said let's try and fix this. How do we fix it? And I wanted to do something with that. I'm seeing how it looks over the different cards, and I'm going to wind up using it over the cloud background. We're actually going to wind up going in and even putting a little more ink on the bottom. But sometimes you have to reach outside of your stash. I'm still trying to figure out where to use those city skyline, and it's just not working out. But just reach into your stash and use something to add to your kit. Now these Hero Arts kits usually they're going to require something else. You don't get enough paper. You don't get I didn't get any. There was no cardstock, no white cardstock, so no card bases, just the glitter paper and the different things. And what I'm doing here is I'm cutting out another one because I was thinking I might use the smaller frame. Wasn't sure how we were going to do this, but I just went ahead and cut these out. Actually going to wind up not using these two pieces, but those will get set aside and used on a project at another time. And see, I'm just experimenting with, and I do like the twisted angle. I like to put the different frames on a card, and so we're trying it out there. And this is just, I know this is sped up, but this is just the process of me looking. Do I like this? The answer, no, I don't. And again, I could not find a way to use the cityscapes. I should not have cut them. They don't have a die cut for those. I wish they did to cut that outline. I'm going to try fussy cutting it. You're going to see that later. I'm horrible at fussy cutting. So when it's all said and done, I said, well, let me see, can I just ink something onto the bottom? Can I just put this on the bottom of this card? And it's just trial and error. So you'll see at the end, I put a little note at the end that this video is it's going to be about 50 minutes or so. All totaled, working on all the cards, doing all the prep work and everything, probably spent about 3 hours in the craft room. And we're going to get 5 cards out of that. So again, it's just a time thing. It's a preference thing. It's what do you like? You know, is this relaxing for you? I hope it is. And so for me, this is just me showing you the process of trying different things out, looking at it. I don't like to. I like when other crafters will show you. I do this. Boom, boom, boom. You boom, boom, bang. You lay this piece down, put this here, and do this, and boom. There's your finished card, and it looks great. And they did it. And you watch the video, and they're done in 5 minutes. It did not take them 5 minutes. And there was a lot more to it, and they've been doing it for a lot longer. So what I did was I just went and just put sort of an outline of the top of that city on there, and then I just blended in the bottom with the rest of that ink, and just wanted to kind of give it, I'm trying to pull this card together. I had no plan for this card, and when it's done, I'm actually going to like it. It's actually going to be okay. I would do a few things different, but I would make this card again. But I would not muddy up the background, the clouds, the way that you can see the clouds there, just a little bit too muddy. I might even go back and add some splatters, which I didn't do on this card. So we're just going to go in and put the windows on. Didn't take this off, not using the top piece. So you just got to be careful not to go up into that color. And if you do, as you can see I'm doing, then I just decided, well, you know what? We're just going to let that be part of the skyline. So we're getting all this put in, getting the lights put on, and then when we lift this off, we're going to be pretty much done with this card. But again, I just really over inked this card, but it turned out all right. So there you go. So I'm pulling out my trimmer, and I'm going to take some of that holographic cardstock, and we're gonna trim it. Just going to trim it. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to trim it, and just double checking my measurements. And what I'm going to wind up doing is we're going to cut it in half. So I got 2 card bases. But then we're actually going to take that other piece and we're going to wind up laying the blue over it. You can see I took one of those blue skylines and I did fussy cut it. Don't like it at all. Don't like the way it looked. I'm just trying to make a card here. I'm just trying something out. This was probably one of the cards that I really didn't like. I kind of had my least favorite. This is probably one of my least favorite of the few cards we made on this. But we're going to take that holographic cardstock and we're going to glue this onto the bottom of the front of the card. And then we're going to put that cityscape on the top of it. And I'm just trying to make at this point, I'm just trying to make a sparkly card. I'm just trying to bring something to the theme of the monthly project, which is very much a theme of starry nights, bright lights, big city kind of theme. And you've got the cloud outline, you've got the city outline. And so I was just trying to sparkle it up a little bit. And I did want to use some of the paper that came with the kit. So we're going to put that on the bottom. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that piece, we're going to put it on the top. And that's the one that's just cut, not fussy cut or anything. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that on top of the card right above the holographic. And then we're going to take that one I fussy cut. And I toyed with lifting it up with some foam tape. I was trying to figure out how to do it. When it was all said and done, I decided just to put a strip of tape across the bottom and leave it with a dimensional look without actually raising it. So we're not going to glue the whole thing down because I just thought it would look better this way. And I'm okay with the way that it does look and the way it turned out. But you could have, a dimensional foam I think would have been too much. So we're going to glue that down just like that. And that's the image I've been trying to go for with the blending, but it's just so hard to do. And I know there's a way to do it. I've just got to play with it a little bit more to try and blend that onto a piece of cardstock. So just using my trimmer to trim everything down because some of the pieces didn't line up and it was overhanging a little bit. And we're just trying to make the card look a little more uniform. And you can see now I trimmed the front and now the back doesn't match up. So we're just going to throw that right back in there. And we're going to trim that off. And now we've got our card where we want it. And I did look at some of the little cutout sentiments. I stamped a bunch of sentiments and cut those out using the die. You see those off to the right there. Wound up not using a whole lot of those. A lot of this, again, is just prep work, cutting stuff, even though you may not use it on a project. I don't plan my cards out very specifically, card by card. A lot of times I will just cut things out, just grab different elements of a card kit and have them ready. Because what happens is if I try to plan a card, I'll spend more time working on a card than if I just get everything ready and do a lot of prep work and then just sort of let it kind of come together. This is a little tricky with this card kit because there were some limitations to it. So we are going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment on the inside of this card. And what I like to do the first time I'm using that sentiment or stamping is I like to check the ink, see how it works, check the handing, see I have a heavy hand when I'm putting the ink on it. And so we're going to put some ink on there. And I like the way it looks. And then we're just going to stamp right in the middle. Welcome to the neighborhood. A little pressure there, lift it up, boom. Looks really good. We're going to set that off to the side to dry. But that card is going to be pretty much done. All right, so we grabbed the card that we put the rub on over the metallic, and we're going to put some tape on it, and we're going to glue it onto the front of an A7 card. This is a larger card, 5x7 card. I'll mention this later on at the end of the video when I'm not doing the voiceover. A little bit broad, a little bit wide with the white on the outside there, but that's okay. And initially when I did that, I looked at it and I thought, it looks great, but I said, well, now it needs something because there's too much of a white border there. And that's when I thought, well, hey, I've got all these wonderful pieces here. And so what can we do? And that just seemed to fit perfectly right there. The birds on the telephone pole line. So we're going to grab our fine tip glue and we're going to put some glue on these birds and we're going to put them on the bottom. I never wound up using the squirrel. I got all these squirrels and I love the little squirrels. I love the little squirrels. We're gonna say more about that a little bit later in the video, so we'll save that surprise for later. But we're gluing down the birds here. Just put a little precision glue on the bottom there, and we're going to glue those birds down to the bottom there and press and hold. This is a new glue that I'm using. It's a craft glue from scrapbook.com, and it has the precision tip. I've been needing one for a while, and so we tried that, ordered a couple of bottles of those, and I love it. I love the tip. I love the way it works. I don't have any problem with the glue pressing out. I don't have any problem with overspray or anything. So there I am trying to find where do I want to put this squirrel, and I just could not make him fit. but I did find that a sentiment fit wonderfully right up top. So what we wound up doing with this card, and I thought about putting something in the middle, and you see I put it away here, and then I'm like, you know what? That needs something, and that's when I saw this. Just seemed it, that right there. When I laid it there and I pulled it away and went back to it, it just said, nope, put me right here. So we're going to add the little hello to the top. And this breaks up the frame. Don't be afraid when you're making a card to break up the symmetry of a card. Don't be afraid to go outside the lines. The great thing about being a crafter and a card maker is you can color outside the lines. And so I'm going to put the hello friend right on the front of the card. You got that beautiful rub-on card front with a metallic background. You've got that nice silhouette of the birds on the line. It's a very abstract card front, very simple, that says hello friend, and you've got a card that you're ready to give away to a friend. All right, so we're back to this first card we're working in with the sky and the city outline, and we're just going to put some tape on that, and we're going to drop this on the front of an A2 card base, 4¼ by 5½. So we're going to put this on the front of the card, and we're going to add that silver frame to it, and we're going to start trying to get this card to come together. So I thought about stamping. I thought about a couple different things. You can see the city line down there. And I was going to put the telephone pole on there. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought, you know, let's just stamp directly onto this card. The neat thing about this card kit is it not only comes with this telephone pole, but you're going to see in a minute, it comes with a telephone pole line. It actually comes with a line that allows you to run, to bend the card and run a line, or bend the stamp and run a line coming off of that telephone pole. So I'm just testing it here to see what the ink's going to look like, to see how it's going to go. And I see that there's some parts where it's a little bit shaded. It's not quite getting all the ink on there. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we ink those parts up a little bit extra and get that the way we want it. And then we're just going to line this up and just stamp this directly onto the front of the card. And I think this looked better than using the cutout telephone pole, especially since we're going to add that metallic frame. I just feel like it would have been too much dimension, too much of the 3D dimension. Now the next part's a little bit tricky. It took a little time, took a little work. We won't show you all of it, but I'm going to grab that thin little strip of the wire, and we're going to lay it onto our block. And I'm going to try and lay it out so that I can stamp 3 different lines running off of each of those 3 points of the top of the pole. And so you see how it bends. And it's a little bit fidgety. It wants to stick to your fingers. It wants to stick to everything. But we got it laid out, kind of looked at what I was doing. And then we're going to wind up just taking it and putting it directly onto the block. And I was going to pick it up here, but it was rolling on me. So I said, all right, let's just put it directly on the block. Got to look at it. Where's the ink part? Okay, that's what we want. Let's grab it. And once I got it on the block, then I could lift it up and shift that line just a little bit. And now you see I'm going to be able to stamp 3 different lines coming off of that telephone pole. So we're going to go ahead and ink this up, and we're going to put our lines down on this card. So you can see I've already stamped 1 line, and now I'm going to stamp the 2nd line. We're going to ink it back up and stamp the 3rd line. I didn't change the layout of the line. I left it the way it was on the card. I just moved the stamp platform and just lined it up the way I wanted to. And so you see what really gives that really cool look of a line sort of dropping off of that telephone pole. Now this is where I thought it would be okay to add some dimension, because what we're actually going to wind up doing is once we put that silver frame on it, you got to have a bird on the wire. And by the way, if you have some spots where the ink isn't there, just get you any black pen, black ink. You could use a watercolor brush, and you could pick some ink up off the ink cube and just color over into those spots. So just a couple spots where I wanted to tap it down. So here I am trying to use the squirrel, but he just didn't fit. So the squirrel didn't make it onto this card either. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab our glue, and we're going to put some glue around the outside of this silver frame and get that silver frame glued down around this card. So it's starting to come together. This again was the chaos card. This was a card that cost me more grief. It was just, oh my goodness. But just taking the time and just looking and just walking out of the craft room, coming back at it later. Again, just having the freedom to go, okay, I'm going to take a breath, come back and get a fresh set of eyes on it, just come back when we're not tired from sitting and cutting and just looking and thinking. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes the craft room is a place where you're more overwhelmed than you are relaxed, and you just got to walk away from the craft room. Don't be afraid to do that. Remember, the whole purpose of my website, the whole purpose of these videos, the whole purpose of me doing this is because it's relaxing. I enjoy it very, very much. And if it ever gets to the point where it's stressful for me or for you, you need to have the freedom to walk away, to take a break. Don't make yourself do something. I know a lot of these guys turn out videos every day, every week. I am not that guy. I don't do this for a living. I have a couple of other jobs and a ministry and different things that we're doing. But when I need to take a break, when I need to relax, I sit down with my craft mat in the craft room, and we just play. And when that's not working, we go do something else. So what we're doing now, we've got the silver frame on, and I want to put the greetings on there, and I want to put some things on here. So we're going to add this greetings, and we are actually going to go back and wind up adding a couple of other things in here as well, like the birds. And so I just want to show you, I love that little bottle of it. That's going to be probably my new go-to glue now, because you can just stick it down. The glue, it works really well. And I believe it's the Artis crafting glue. I'm not sure, but again, we get it from scrapbook.com, and I really, really like that. So what we're doing now is I'm looking at all the different birds, and we're just going to throw some birds onto the telephone pole. And so we're going to put this one on. We won't show you the others. You'll see the finished card. I'm just picking out the 3 birds that I like. I'm going to put one on each wire and just kind of line these birds up so that we can finish this card. So I went into my stash of cards and I grabbed a background I had made, and I was going to use the cityscapes on the top there. I was trying to find a way to use those, but once again, just wasn't really happy with how they lined up on the front of the card. They just did not look right to me in that block cut format. So we're going to wind up not using those 2 up there again. But what I did find in the stamp set, in the card kit, was this really cool row of houses on that other smaller stamp set with all of the sentiments. And I thought, I want to experiment with this, and I want to see how this looks and see how the different color inks look on it. And I wound up really liking this. And so we're going to actually take the card, and this card, no thought, no preparation, literally grabbed a card front, grabbed the houses, spent 5 minutes, and threw this card together with no plan, no overthinking it. This card just sort of happened. And this card I would make again and again and again. You can use any background. You can make any different sort of colored background you want. And you can just stamp a couple of these rows and put your sentiment on the bottom, as you're going to see on this card. And when it's all said and done, you're going to have this really nice little card that's really easy to make. And this card, by the way, is going to be one that you're not actually going to see it. Well, you will see it. You'll see it at the end of the card, because there's another card that I went back after the fact and made to add to the final cards as well. But you won't see that at the end, because that was kind of an afterthought as well. But this just worked out really well. And so we just laid the houses down there. Going to use the 3 different colors of ink to try and give it just to break things up, kind of a little rainbow effect. And we're just going to stamp 3 rows of the houses, and then we're going to put a sentiment on the bottom of the card. And it's just eyeballing it. And I was trying to decide where I wanted to put it, how I wanted to do it. And we're just going to spread these out just a little bit. And I actually didn't think about it, but I actually wound up breaking this up and putting the top, middle, and bottom. I could have put them closer together, but this actually winds up working out really well, because I'm going to stamp a sentiment on the front of it, and it's going to fit perfectly where the houses are. So what I do here is, because I left myself enough room, was I just put it right there at the top. But I was going to go, and I think I told you wrong, I was going to go top, middle, bottom, and I thought, nope, let's just do it this way. And again, that worked out perfectly, because now I'm going to grab a sentiment and we're going to stamp that on the bottom of this card. And this again was one that just sort of happened. It just came together without really any planning or any thought. I said I wanted to use it. I didn't feel like I was using enough of the kit, and I just grabbed a card base and started stamping. Then we grab this sentiment, and we're going to throw this on the bottom. Real simple. I could have embossed this after the fact. I thought about it, and I might go back later, and if I make another one, emboss it. But you see there, I didn't like that sentiment, so we pulled it off, and we're grabbing this one. But you could emboss this. You could even emboss those houses. I think would look really neat. Just use the ink, throw your embossing powder over it, and then you'd get a nice little bit of dimension there. So we're going to throw the sentiment on the front of this card. It says, "My door is always open." And that's pretty much gonna do it for the front of that card. And this next card is the freebie. This is the last minute card. This is where I said, you know what? I'm going to revisit these stencils. I'm going to find a way to make this card work. I'm going to find a way to use these stencils. Doggone it. I am not incompetent. I know what I'm doing. I should be able to figure this out. So we're going to tape the stencil down. Now, go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. I taped the stencil down. Didn't tape the card down, so the first thing that happens is the card slides. So now we have this wonderful process of going, okay, let's line everything back up. Hopefully we didn't mess it up, and let's see what we need to do to fix this. So we're going to tape the card down on the top and on the bottom there. And, so just lesson learned here, and just here's my 2 cents. Tape everything down. Make sure your card is taped down, your stencil is taped down. I'm using a low tack mint tape here because that's just what was handy. Probably could have used a little bit stronger tape, but it works. And I'm also now making sure to press down on the stencil and use my fingers and making sure that I'm holding everything in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink that top and middle portion. I'm not going to move it. I actually got it right where I want it. And we're actually even going to do and I'm taping over that bottom part so I don't actually accidentally get any ink on that, because I'm going to slide it up and add that piece at the bottom as well. So all I'm doing is I'm inking in the building part, and then we're going to go back over this with some black ink to put in the lights on the buildings. And we're also going to put in a sky, but we're going to use some tape, and we're going to use those pop outs. And you see there, once again, the card's still trying to slide. So I got to make sure everything is back where it needs to be. I love making these videos because I love showing you what it looks like when you do it wrong. I love showing you what it looks like when you make a mistake. And here's the thing. I've been doing this for a couple years now. Started before the pandemic, and there's a few things I'm much better at than when I first started. But here's the thing. I haven't quit because I make mistakes. And if you're worried about, I messed up another card, this is frustrating, then again, you're going to struggle with this as a hobby. You're going to struggle with this. So just get that out of your head. Get out of your own head. So now that I've got the city in, we're going to go in and we're just going to blend in some sky very lightly with that lighter shade of blue. We're using that other ink cube. And it's okay if I go over the buildings. I'm not worried about that at this point. And so we're just going to, because it's not really going to do anything to that darker color of the buildings. It's still going to work fine. I didn't have to save myself a step here. And so we've got all this done. We're going to get these top section done, but then we're going to have to put the stencil back on so that I can do the bottom. I started to slide the stencil up, and if I did that, I could probably make this work. And not only that, the stencil is a little bit bigger, so this would probably work much better on an A7 card, a 5x7 card. You see I've got plenty of room off to the side, but I'm using this on a smaller card. So what we're going to do now is I've shifted it up a little bit so that I can go back now and put that bottom piece in. So we're going to tape everything down, make sure the card's taped, make sure the stencil is taped, and I'm trying to get pieces everywhere I need it. And then we're going to add another piece, and I start here, and then I think we're going to have another mistake. I can't remember if it slides. Yep, see, it slides on me again, and that's when I'm like, oh, guess what? Even though it's taped at the top, it's not taped down below. Not only that, but I have to be careful that I don't ride up into the buildings above, which wouldn't matter as much because it's the same color ink. But we got it fixed. We put down a little more tape, and putting it down on the card, just trying to make sure it doesn't move. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our ink in here. So this is sped up. All right. So once again, this card actually didn't take that long. This sequence of making this card sped up here on the tape on the video is probably 5-10 minutes. Probably took me actually 20 minutes in the craft room, 25 minutes. So not bad at all. So we've got that bottom part done now. We're going to take this off, and we're going to go back and blend in the sky, just like we did for the other part. And then the last thing we have to do is put our lights on our buildings. But that takes a little work too, because you want to make sure that you don't you want to make sure you don't get any of that black ink back into the sky or mess up your card. So you're going to see in just a minute. Once we get this blue sky blended into the bottom part, then we can grab those knockouts and tape them down and put in the lights. And this is real easy for the top two pieces because you can actually put the knockouts down, and then you can also put the larger piece on to help make sure that you don't get any ink where you don't want it. But initially, we're just going to tape it down like that. Now, I remembered, got to tape the card. So we tape the card, top and bottom, and then we're going to grab our stencils, and we're going to tape those down. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. And I actually didn't put the larger piece on. I didn't think about it, but it probably, and then I was like, well, let's do that. But what I don't realize is that the bottom part is open, and so you have to be careful that you don't go down into those buildings. So you're going to see the ink is going to come down a little bit low, and there's a couple times where I got a little worried that I may have gone down into the buildings below, but that doesn't actually happen, thankfully. But in hindsight, I could have just gone ahead and thrown the other piece in and knocked these both out at the same time. So we're going to get the top one done, and once that's done, I'm going to pull that stencil out. I'm going to throw it in water, and then we're going to work on the middle part. So it's the same thing for the rest of it, so we won't show you all the rest of that for the sake of time. But just remember when you're working with your stencils, when you're laying these pieces down, just remember to make sure that you have tape where you need to have tape so that you can get everything where it needs to be. So we're going to skip ahead just a little bit to show you how it looks when we're ready to get to the end of the card. All right, so you can see that everything came out okay. We got the lights on the buildings, didn't make any mistakes. And now what I'm going to do is use that open sky space to put some sentiments in. So we're going to put welcome at the top. And then we're going to reach in and we're going to grab that little long strip that says, and there's a couple different ones on there, but we're going to get the one that says to the neighborhood. And I'm actually trying to figure out the best place to put it. And in the end, I felt like the bottom, it was too far away to put it at the bottom. So we're actually going to put it right there in the middle of the card. So we're going to get it lined up where we need it to be. Now this is a little tricky. I did manage to keep it pretty straight when I stamped it on the card, freehanding this. But you have to be careful because if it, a little bit of a mistake and it could throw off the symmetry of the card, and then and then if you're like me with the ADD and the OCD, it would bother you. But that came out perfect. Welcome to the neighborhood. So this card won't be seen at the end because this was the last minute. This was me saying I'm going to tackle that stencil, and I actually think I did it. I learned a few things about taping the stencil down, but I also really like that card, and that's an easy card. I could make that again. I could sit down with several card bases and just work on it in stages. So there is the bonus card for this kit. All right, so this is where we are. This is the last card we did. I like that, just the colors, just a little blended background that I had made. Just playing around one day and just putting ink on card fronts. So I like that. You could put something on the inside or not, but I like that card. This one's okay. I'm not a big fussy cutter. I really wish they'd have had a die set to go with this. I love the stencil idea, but I'm going to have to work on that. I'm going to have to play with this a little bit and figure out some things. I'll play around with some, if I do, I'll probably make a video and come back and show that to you. But I like this, just a little bling on the front of the card. And then you got a little bit of that depth to it just because I glued the bottom, but I left this part undone. So it just kind of gives you that cityscape kind of look. And then on the inside, just a little welcome to the neighborhood. So that'd be a nice, simple little card you could send to somebody as a gift. Love the way this one came out, even though I hate that I didn't realize, I lost most of the rub-ons with this one. But it looks really neat over that metallic cardstock. It just looks really cool. Added the birds to the bottom and then just the hello friend. So maybe a little too much white around the outside, but that's okay. It's a nice big card. You can plenty of room in there to write a note. So you can send that to your friend. So we like that one. And then here's the last card we did. And boy, I've never struggled with a card more than I have in my life than I did with this one. Just did not like the background. And, as you can see on the video, we just inked and inked and inked. But when it dried, it's a very muted kind of just a deep reddish, grayish. It's just a dark, kind of a little bit of a night background, not a stormy background. You've got the clouds. And then the idea to stamp on the pole there, put this sparkly frame around it. I think that really helped this, and then adding the birds for a little dimension, and then just the simple greetings. And so this is just a nice little card. I would do this one again, hands down. I would use this part of the kit like crazy. I wish there were some more rub-ons. I love these birds. I'm gonna do some more with these. Bigger card, because this is actually a 5x7. This is an A7 card. That's why they fit, and they won't fit on the A2 cards, the 4 1/4 by 5.5. But so I love that. I've got all these. I got a couple telephone poles. I love the squirrels. I really wanted to use them, and I just. This is one of those card sets where as I was making cards and trying to put these together at this point, I kind of got a little just got a little tired of it, just got a little burnt out. And that'll happen when you're making cards. Sometimes the set just won't speak to you. Sometimes the ideas will flow. You'll get 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 cards. This took some work to get these 4, and that one just came together at the end. I mean, I just said 3 wasn't enough. I said, I got to do something else. And so I just grabbed that and did that. And without really any thought, that actually is kind of one of the simplest of my favorite cards. So I think in order, I do like this one, then this one, and then this one, and then probably that one in order of the way I like them. This one, we'll probably do something like this again. The greeting's probably a little too bright, but definitely pops. I don't know. These are just some simple cards. Hopefully this gives you some ideas if you have this kit. Work on the stencils. Like I say, I'm gonna probably try some different layering techniques with those. I was trying to get the blended 3D, and I know there's a way to do it. And just every time I work with stencils like that, I'm not a big stenciler, I'm not a big blender. I have my own technique for those things. So something like this where you have to stamp and stamp and stamp, it's not my wheelhouse, but in the end, I do like this, and I just think I know I can do better with that. So I may come back and revisit this at a later date, but for now, we're going to take all these extra pieces, everything, they'll go in the bag, they'll set up on the shelf, they'll be labeled. These cards are ready to go. So hopefully this has given you some ideas. Again, not every day in the craft room is going to be a great day. These are not 4 of my best cards by any stretch of the imagination, but I did enjoy doing it. Doing this does relax me, and I've said so many times before, for those of you that maybe are watching for the first time and haven't heard, if this doesn't relax you, if making cards creates more stress for you, find another hobby, please, because the time and the money that it's going to take and what you're going to put into this, you're going to have to be so selective, or you're going to just find yourself with a craft room full of stuff you don't need or you won't use or you won't know where to store. You'll get overwhelmed very quickly, and just depending on how OCD and ADD you are, if this isn't something that you can just sit down and spend 30 minutes to an hour and maybe not even get anywhere, then you might want to rethink the hobby. But if you're okay with sitting down and just playing with ink, playing with die cuts, and even though I haven't used these little squirrels, I have a mind to put a little sticker on them and just stick these things, like take them to work and just stick them on the wall. Just stick them all around. Just wherever I go, just stick a squirrel. I may put these in my pocket and just take squirrels, and if I go out to eat in a restaurant, stick a squirrel on the wall. They're never gonna know. I don't know. This was fun to me. So hopefully this has given you a few ideas. Take what we've got here. Maybe you can do something better, build on it. But once again, just a reminder that I believe the ability to create is a gift from God. So once again, this is Pastor Ian, the Krabby Crafter, saying happy Krabby Crafting. And until next time, God bless.